sometimes.
Yeah. And I really like the comment that you made to me and Rod when we had our initial phone call, where you said in the United States, people grow up with fairy tales, and in Greece, they grow up with mythology. And I thought that is so true. You're right.
Yeah, I feel like, so I'm not to discredit, I'm sure like children grow up with fairy tales. I had my fair share of, Disney films. But yeah, it's hard to find a household that doesn't have like an illustrated version of the Greek myths or, the gods on Olympus.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's such a story. They have so much power, and it makes for a good read for kids,
Well, a lot of times
it's very human-centric.
Yeah, and a lot of Greek mythology triggers a lot of literature that we read today, and
Absolutely.
You don't even know it.
Right, exactly.
You don't know.
Yes.
You don't know that that's really based on Greek mythology.
It fuels a lot of stories.
It fuels
so
a
many
lot of stories.
things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, so many things. I think the most interesting book I read about that recently was Antigone Rising. And I'm so sorry, I forget the author's name, but she goes into details on how Greek mythology influenced, so many cultures and in what ways, and your mind sort of gets blown.
Yeah, the influence.
About, how layered it is.
Oh, yeah, very layered.
So true.
Our daughter visited Naxos in Greece, and she really loved the country.
Wonderful.
She loved the country, she loved the culture, and she really loved the people. In fact, she's always telling us we should move to Greece. So
it's true.
I think she's ready to go. But what is
I can't blame her.
Yeah, she just, it was their honeymoon, right?
Yeah, it was their honeymoon. They had a fantastic.
Stephanie, what was your most happiest memory of being in Greece? I mean, the happiest memory you had. And I'm sure you had more than one, but let's pick the top. Yeah. Let's pick the top one.
This might sound funny, but I think the happiest memory I have is actually a scent memory. And it's this scent of heating fig leaves. So we have around the summertime, our fig trees are in, They grow all of these like delicious, juicy figs, and the leaves when they're in the heat, because it's like 40 degrees Celsius by July, they exude this aroma that, alongside the soil burning and the grass and all of that, to me it became like the quintessential scent of summer, and it's one of the nicest memories I have.
That's a beautiful memory.
That's such a beautiful memory. And it was really funny because the other day when we were walking, because we live in the mountains, and you're aware of smells because the forest changes. And I can so relate to what you said on a different level, because when we were walking, all of a sudden it smelled like summer, because the trees were exuding their piney, woody scent,
pollen,
and tons of pollen, unfortunately. But but I can so relate to your fig experience, because to have that smell and you can't really describe it, but
I think everybody has that, fresh soil, maybe your grandmother gardening, and then turning over of soil. I know we love figs, so we go out of our way to find fig trees. So
it's one of my favorite things. I look forward to it this summer.
That and goat cheese and figs. It doesn't get any better.
Oh, truly.
So good. So good. So my question is have you ever been to Delphi?
Unfortunately, no. It's still on my list. I always wanted to go. So because you have to take a detour for Delphi, and it's quite out of your way, and it was usually on our way back or on our way to somewhere, it was always sort of like, we'll get to it next time. And we never actually managed to go.
Well, it's
a dream destination.
Yeah, it's a windy mountain road, and everybody talks about it. We have
so many of those.
Yeah, everybody talks about it. Everybody reads about the Oracle of Delphi and all that. But it's funny how many people that I've talked to, I've only known actually one couple that actually visited there.
Yeah, and then the wife didn't want to go because it was so windy and they were afraid of heights. And then what happened?
Well, her husband was kind enough to pick up a bottle of wine, and by the time she got up there, she was yelling out the car windows and probably
singing.
Well, probably would go, "There goes another American."
Probably.
That's a wonderful story. That sounds exactly right for like what happens on a Greek summer. Yeah, it's a magical place. I've always wanted to go, and I love the places that have such a spiritual history behind them. They're energetically charged. I mean, not to sound a little too woo-woo, but there's just certain places where you go and you just feel the energy.
That's what we wondered about it. We're like, did you feel anything from there? Because it's, very spiritually charged.
Exactly.
The husband said he did.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, she did. She did too.
Yeah.
I mean, she connected.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I haven't gone to Delphi, but I've been to some other places that are like that. You can also sort of feel it near Elefsina. So that area, it's right by Athens. It's like, if you're going from south to north, it's right outside of Athens. Uh-huh. And that's where the Eleusinian mysteries took place. So if you're visiting ancient sites there, definitely feel an energy. And then I think the last place that felt utterly magical was on the island of Milos, where we took a boat and they took us to this cave that used to be an ancient rituals cave. There's not much left because the ocean has eroded everything. So they don't know the history in full. But you absolutely, once you enter that cave, it feels completely different from anything else you experience on the island.
I bet. Roman culture and Greek culture, especially and throughout the world, but especially here in the United States, have often been confused when it comes to art. Could you define the difference between them?
That's a great question.
Well, the history, there's so many, there's crossover in their histories. So
for sure. So I don't know if there's like one definition for it. Usually it helps to read labels in museums because they tend to explain. So a lot of Roman production, especially the sculptures that were copies of marble sculptures, tended to also be in copper. So they tended to be cast over marble sculptures.
And painted.
Yes. And I'm sure there's more differences, but because the overlap historically was so deep, I think the only real way to make yourself more acquainted and comfortable with, sort of seeing the differences is when you read the labels and see things exhibited side by side. Like, for example, at the Met Museum, I think where it becomes clear, where the differences become clear is when Byzantium was founded and we are moving more into a late antique art. So there was that shift that was also like a religious shift that affected sculptural production, especially a lot. And it started, moving things toward a more Byzantine style. And that's where you sort of start seeing more of the difference more naturally, like it's easier to spot.
I know when we were at the Met and we were in that section and there's so much to read.
You
try to